Life is replete with unforeseen twists and turns. As I sat in the cramped hotel room that evening, solitude enveloped me, with only Mason for company. The absence of my husband Gavin, who has been in another city for the past few months, has left me feeling quite tense. I missed him, undoubtedly, but it transcended his mere absence. It was his indifference, his disinterest, that truly lay at the heart of the issue. The solitude of the nights gnawed at the very essence of my being. Who could have predicted that my simple request for my stepson Mason to drive me to your father would lead to us finding ourselves confined in a hotel room together? A diminutive hotel room featuring a solitary bed. Unbeknownst to me, a moment of unforeseen consequence loomed just ahead. Allow me to recount the tale from its inception, capturing each and every nuance. Believe me, the conclusion of this tale will unfold in a manner far more thrilling than you could ever anticipate. As dawn broke and I stepped out of the house, a fleeting reflection caught my eye in the mirror. I felt the tension coursing through me, yet I managed to maintain an air of elegance. Despite Gavin's departure leaving me in solitude, I remained aware of my desirability, still pulsating with the essence of life. Yet, even those emotions had lost their power. They no longer fulfilled me. As Mason wrapped up his breakfast in the kitchen, I called out to him from behind. As the summer draws to a close and college beckons, it's essential to hone your driving skills. Let's go meet your father. He gazed up at me, that familiar mischievous grin adorning his face, as it always did. Mason was an endearing child, possessing a delightful quirkiness and a sense of humor that could light up a room, yet he had a knack for stirring up mischief every now and then. "All right, stepmom," he said with a playful smirk, "but only if you promise to convince Dad to get me a nicer car for the summer." "We'll talk about it," I said sharply, ushering him inside, my mind racing with the thought of just wanting to get this trip over with. Yet, I was completely unaware that the journey would take an unexpected turn. After 2 hours on the road, we continued our journey. In the back seat, I found myself absorbed in my phone, while Mason filled the air with his off-key humming to a tune on the radio, punctuating the melody with a series of silly jokes that seemed to amuse him alone. Suddenly, the car emitted a dreadful hiss, followed by an abrupt silence as it came to a complete stop. "What is unfolding?" I inquired, making an effort to keep my composure. "I think the car broke down," Mason muttered, pulling over to the side of the road, his annoyance evident. There we found ourselves, ensnared in the vast expanse of nowhere. The signal on my phone flickered weakly, and not a single person was in sight to offer assistance. For 2 long hours, we engaged in a heated debate, reaching out to every mechanic we could locate, desperately attempting to resolve the vexing issue. Ultimately, we had to confront the undeniable truth. Our only choice was to spend the night at the nearest hotel. At the hotel reception, as Mason engaged in conversation with the man at the desk, I lingered behind him, seething with frustration. I couldn't help but think that if Gavin catches wind of this, he's bound to explode. Yet, in that peculiar instant, I found that it seemed to hold little significance. In the depths of my being, an undeniable certainty whispered that this night would alter the course of everything. Before this tale takes an even wilder turn, be sure to subscribe to my channel and activate those notifications. You'll definitely want to stick around for what comes next. Ultimately, I would greatly appreciate your support. As we stepped into the room and swung the door open, the weight of the comments and the flood of likes faded away, leaving my expectations in ruins. The space was minuscule, scarcely allowing for a full rotation. A solitary bed, accompanied by a lone nightstand, beneath a dim, flickering overhead light that cast a dingy pallor over the room. The ceiling loomed low, the air conditioning struggled to provide relief, and the solitary window offered nothing but a view of the parking lot. "This is it," I whispered, a sense of disappointment washing over me. Behind me, Mason entered with a chuckle. "What were you anticipating? A luxurious 5-star hotel experience? Take it easy, stepmom. It's merely one evening." Once more, that playful tone, that familiar smirk. It drove me to the brink of madness. yet simultaneously ignited an inexplicable fire within me. Reluctantly, I found myself acknowledging that the prospect of spending the evening here alone with Mason wasn't as unappealing as I had initially thought. With a chuckle, Mason strolled in just behind me. Did you really think it would be a 5-star hotel? We find ourselves here for but a single night. Take a breath, stepmother. The playful lilt in his voice, combined with that mischievous smile, only deepened my irritation. Yet, I found it difficult to claim that I completely despised Mason's easygoing, relaxed demeanor. His presence ignited a spark within me, an exhilarating sensation I was reluctant to acknowledge, yet it lingered just beneath the surface, enigmatic and compelling. The oppressive heat is suffocating, I murmured, massaging the nape of my neck. I believe a shower is in order, or I might just faint from the heat. Of course, Mason replied nonchalantly, flopping onto the bed and stretching out on his back. This realm belongs to you, Carmen. Make yourself comfortable in any way you see fit. For just a fleeting moment, I cast my gaze in his direction. His slender yet defined physique, combined with the subtle youthful quality of his features, bestowed upon him an intriguing allure. Yet, I swiftly endeavored to dispel the notion from my mind. He was, after all, the son of Gavin, my stepson. As I entered the bathroom, I closed the door softly behind me. For a fleeting moment, I found myself captivated by the image staring back at me from the mirror. Despite the heat causing my hair to cling to my skin, I still managed to look good. The spark remained within me. As I turned on the shower, I allowed the water to cascade down, stepping beneath its embrace, yearning for it to cleanse the tumult of emotions swirling within me. I am 47 years old, I reflected, and Mason, well, he's no longer a child. At 22, on the brink of embarking on his college journey, we find ourselves confined within the cramped quarters of this hotel room for a few days. The notion stirred a blend of unease and exhilaration within me, an emotion I struggled to articulate. Gavin suddenly surfaced in my thoughts. Gavin, I had a delightful surprise in store for you. I had hoped to be by your side, to share moments together, yet here I find myself confined to this hotel room with your son, grappling with my emotions in the silence. The steam enveloped the small bathroom, its warmth soothing my body while my thoughts whirled in a chaotic dance. Mason's grin, coupled with his easygoing nature, ignited an unexpected spark within me. As I stood beneath the cascade of water, the nature of the spark eluded me, yet an undeniable shift was in the air. Eventually, I made my way downstairs for dinner, hoping to clear my mind a little. I slipped into a delicate, airy dress. It was ideal for the warmth, yet it also brought a sense of comfort to my spirit. In my attempt to dispel the peculiar tension that clung to me, I found the hotel restaurant to be unpretentious yet inviting, perfectly suited for such a quaint establishment. I requested a light meal accompanied by a glass of wine, anticipating that it would soothe my nerves. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a gentle twilight, while the streetlights outside the hotel began to illuminate the evening with their soft glow. As I sat there, my thoughts inevitably drifted back to the room above. I found myself pondering the current pursuits of Mason. For someone so vibrant and brimming with energy, being confined to a small room likely felt more like a prison than a refuge. Yet, there was something about his laid-back demeanor, so natural and untroubled, that was driving me to the brink of madness in a way I couldn't fully articulate. As the last sip of wine slipped away, I cast one last look at my plate before ascending the stairs, each step deliberate and unhurried. As I entered the room, an enveloping silence greeted me. As I swung the door open, the scene before me took my breath away, leaving me momentarily speechless. Mason, fresh from a shower, lay sprawled on the bed, clad only in a robe, utterly unconscious. His half-open robe unveiled the contours of his lean, muscular physique. His damp hair tumbled over his forehead, and a subtle smile graced his lips, as if he were lost in a dream. My heart raced, for what I encountered was the last thing I could have anticipated. For a fleeting moment, I stood motionless by the door, caught in a web of uncertainty. Within me, a peculiar blend of emotions stirred. Despite the flush of embarrassment creeping over me, my gaze remained irresistibly drawn to him. "Carmen, what on earth are you up to?" "That's Gavin's son." I reprimanded myself in silence, yet my gaze faltered, irresistibly drawn to the section of his robe that had slipped further ajar. What I witnessed ignited a gentle warmth within me. The cramped dimensions of the room only exacerbated the situation. There was no alternative. It was either share the bed with him or endure the night in a chair. In this sweltering heat, the mere idea of a chair felt utterly unattainable. As I entered the room, I moved deliberately, the sound of Mason's calm, rhythmic breathing enveloping the atmosphere. As I inhaled deeply, I sought clarity, yet the turmoil within me rendered coherent thought an elusive dream. I needed to regain my composure. "All right, Carmen," I whispered under my breath. "It's merely one night, nothing beyond that. This holds no significance." I had intended to surprise Gavin, yet here I find myself, ensnared in this predicament. "Maintain your composure and think clearly." I approached the bed, my gaze fixed on Mason. The purity in his expression only served to further entangle my already chaotic thoughts. I settled onto the edge of the bed, contemplating how I would navigate the hours ahead. In the stillness of the night, a gentle sound roused me from my slumber. With a hesitant flutter, I cracked open my eyelids, allowing just enough light to filter in as I surveyed the surroundings. Mason shifted on the bed, a half-asleep figure, his hands running through his hair as he scratched his head lightly. I caught myself observing him, yet I maintained a facade of drowsiness, keeping my eyes only half-lidded. Yet within me, a storm raged, far from the tranquility I portrayed. In that moment, I sensed it, his gaze fixed upon me. My heart began to race. His gaze was fixed upon me. I endeavored to uphold the facade, preserving the drowsy expression upon my visage and remaining motionless, yet within me, a whirlwind of energy surged. With a deliberate motion, Mason started to loosen the belt of his robe. As it relaxed, the robe cascaded from his shoulders, unveiling more of his sculpted physique. The subtle movement of his muscles with each motion ignited an unexpected warmth within me. I found myself unable to restrain my impulses. In that instant, I became aware of two profound truths. I was powerless to influence the unfolding events, and a part of me was reluctant to intervene at all. With a deliberate motion, Mason retrieved a pair of shorts from the depths of the wardrobe. As he proceeded, he frequently cast sidelong glances in my direction, as though attempting to discern if I was truly awake. His appearance heightened my anticipation. I struggled to conceal my thoughts, yet simultaneously, I surrendered entirely to the moment's embrace. Once he slipped into his shorts, he chose not to return to the bed. Instead, he settled into the chair in the corner of the room and began to observe me intently. The intensity of the gaze upon me was both disconcerting and ignited an indescribable sensation deep within my soul. I closed my eyes tightly, feigning slumber, yet I wondered how much longer I could maintain this charade. At last, I reached my limit and propped myself up. As our gazes locked, I steadied my voice, ensuring it remained unwavering as I confessed, with all the sincerity I could muster, "You're making me so excited, Mason." The weight of those words lingered in the atmosphere. In that instant, I realized that everything had irrevocably changed. For a fleeting moment, Mason's gaze wavered, then he inhaled deeply and began to articulate his thoughts. "I don't know, Carmen," he said, his voice low yet unwavering. "For some time now, we have been sharing the same space, ever since my father departed. As our moments together accumulate, so too does the depth of my feelings for you. Unbeknownst to you, there are moments when my admiration for you becomes impossible to conceal. At this moment, it seems as though I am caught in a surreal dream." His words took me by surprise, yet they ignited a spark within me. Mason's gaze remained steady, locking onto mine with a sincerity and fervor that left me utterly entranced. "I must rise early to have the car repaired," he continued, though his tone suggested he was attempting to reassure himself. Yet his gaze remained steadfast, unwavering in the slightest. "At this moment, my gaze is entirely captivated by you, Carmen. A sensation unlike any I've ever experienced before washes over me." My heart raced with fervor. At that instant, I shifted to the edge of the bed and settled into the chair directly across from him. Our gazes intertwined, a silent connection forming between us. The connection we shared was so powerful that it transcended the need for language. We lingered in silence for a moment, and then I pursed my lips gently, locking my gaze onto him. "Mason," I inquired slowly, my voice laced with both intrigue and a hint of provocation, "are we discussing the same matter?" Mason's gaze intensified, as if he yearned to experience this moment through emotions rather than mere words. He remained silent, yet the expression in his eyes conveyed everything. In that moment, I understood that we had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. As I gazed into his eyes, a wave of bravery and uncontainable longing surged within me. The interplay of uncertainty and fervor in his gaze only propelled me onward. Drawing in a steady breath, I began to speak once more, my tone composed yet resolute. As I entered the room, I captured his complete attention. "You lay there in slumber, your robe slightly ajar, and I found myself unable to look away from you. It affected me more deeply than I anticipated. These feelings are inescapable, we both understand that truth." With my words lingering in the atmosphere, I advanced a step and gradually rose to my feet. His gaze tracked my every motion, his breath growing more rapid. Excitement surged through me, an irresistible force I could not contain. As my fingers grazed the sash of my dress, I began to untie it with deliberate slowness, each motion eliciting a subtle shift in his breathing that echoed in the charged air between us. I believe I mentioned, my voice lowering to a hush, that we must find a balance, Mason. I gently pulled down the zipper at the back of my dress. The fabric cascaded from my shoulders, gracefully descending to the floor below. The crisp air caressing my skin intensified the fire that raged within me. The expression in his eyes conveyed everything: astonishment, reverence, and an irresistible allure. The stillness enveloping us transformed into a connection, our breaths intertwining seamlessly as we held each other's gaze. With deliberate intent, I advanced another step in his direction. In a hushed tone, I remarked, "Let's determine if we are indeed on the same page." Mason's gaze remained fixed on me, his demeanor unwavering and brimming with intensity. In an instant, he rose to his feet, his eyes locked onto mine, and flicked on the room light. The gentle illumination enveloped the space as he approached and secured the door. My heart began to race. In that instant, it seemed as though time itself had come to a standstill, isolating just the two of us in our own universe. As he advanced toward me, my breath hitched in my throat. He appeared to be attempting to decipher the depths of my gaze, yet concurrently, he was acutely conscious of the unspoken attraction that lingered in the air between us. As he approached, his hands settled on my waist, and the warmth of his touch surged through me like an electric current. Silently, he drew closer, his gaze fixated on my lips. I remained silent, unable to voice my dissent. Every aspect of this experience resonated with an effortless authenticity, as if it were destined to unfold. As his lips finally brushed against mine, the tension within me dissipated like mist in the morning sun. His kiss unfolded with a deliberate slowness, a journey of discovery, yet it brimmed with an unmistakable fervor. My hands instinctively found their way to his shoulders, enveloped by their strength and warmth. As our breaths intertwined, the distance that once separated us vanished entirely. That moment resonated with the intensity of an explosion, encapsulating all the unvoiced emotions that lingered between us. The vibrancy of Mason's youth intertwined with the profound passion I had nurtured throughout the years. It marked the dawn of a new chapter, a moment filled with both fear and thrill. That night, the truth of our feelings for one another could no longer be concealed. I surrendered to the bed, my body weary yet my thoughts surged like a tempest. My breath remained unsteady. The fabric of my dress lay on the floor, and my foot gently brushed against it. Mason's eyes were upon me, an intense and silent energy emanating from his gaze. A moment later, he stooped to retrieve the dress, his fingers gently gliding over the spot where my foot had rested. That seemingly simple accent ignites something within me. As he grasped the second, I could perceive. A brief moment of uncertainty crossed his features, swiftly giving way to a resolute determination. He placed the dress aside, his hands gliding to the edge of the bed. With measured steps, he ascended onto the mattress, each motion imbued with caution and intent. As he approached, the look on his face revealed his emotions, a blend of exhilaration and undeniable allure. As I reclined on the opposite side of the bed, I sensed Mason's proximity. My heart raced on, each beat echoing in my chest, while my breaths grew deeper and more deliberate. As he leaned in closer, it struck me how the space that once separated us had nearly vanished. It felt as though the world had teetered on the edge of a precipice, with no possibility of retreat. In that moment, an overwhelming sensation surged within me. It both pained and thrilled me simultaneously. As I gazed upward at the ceiling, Mason's face came into view. The manner in which he swept his hair back from his forehead with his hand captivated me. In his eyes, I could discern the whirlwind of emotions swirling within Mason. He was flushed, brimming with excitement and radiating pure joy. His every action radiated an undeniable fervor, and I found myself deeply touched by the sight of him, breathless and consumed by his efforts. Mason had heightened my emotions to such an extent that I found myself relieved the car had broken down. "I'll never forget this hotel," Mason said, his voice trembling, each word escaping him like a weighty breath. His gaze was fixed upon me, yet his hands trembled ever so slightly. His body was taut, muscles coiling with each deliberate movement, as if he sought to preserve a fleeting memory. He expressed with certainty that he no longer wished for his father to sell the car. Following these words, he allowed himself to collapse beside me, shutting his eyes in silence as he awaited the return of his breath. Fatigue enveloped me, rendering me utterly speechless. My legs thrashed uncontrollably, and I was blissfully unaware of how I had drifted into slumber. The following morning, Mason arrived with the car repaired and informed me that we needed to collect Gavin and make our way to the city. As we traveled down the road, a swirl of regret and conflicting emotions washed over me, yet beneath it all, a spark of excitement flickered within. As I gazed at Mason, his eyes, his movements, every aspect of him was stirring something within me. All was shrouded in complexity, and yet the future remained an enigma to me. The conflict between the swirling questions in my mind and the thrill of anticipation left me in a state of indecision. One certainty lingered in my mind. This journey would mark the moment when everything transformed. If you've journeyed this far, it's clear that my tale has sparked your interest. Be sure to stay connected. Tap that follow button, enable notifications, and share your thoughts on this story in the comments. I eagerly anticipate your reflections.